Welcome back. So the Fit for 55 package, if you were living and working in and around the EU on the 14th of July, you probably had a pretty busy time. But for those of you who weren't, Fit for 55 package published in the summer by the European Commission, and it was the aim of aligning the EU's increased target of cutting greenhouse gas emissions by 55% by 2030, as well as Europe's promise to become climate neutral by 2050. Lots of different aspects in those proposals, but on the package of particular relevance for renewable hydrogen, as we heard Giles mention at the beginning, we saw an increased renewable energy target 40% by 2030, which means that by that time, 40% of the final energy use needs to come from renewables. And that final energy use obviously being in Europe or the EU. Tough binding targets to use renewable hydrogen in various industries and transport sectors, including aviation. And we also saw that there was an implicit definition of renewable hydrogen contained in the proposals, in that they say it's hydrogen based on renewable electricity. So there's a lot to chew over in there, some interesting responses as well to the proposals, and we're going to get some more of them now. And we have a whole plethora of very interesting CEOs who are going to talk to us in our panel now. I'll introduce them in a moment. We also have policymaker, but just a couple of points about how you, the audience, can take part. If you'd like to ask a question, please do it via the Q&A button, not the chat, because we won't be taking questions via the chat. We will just be taking them via Q&A. Please keep them short and direct as possible. You have a much better chance of your question being asked if it's short, direct, and if it's for a specific person, because we're going to be quite tight on time. So please, if you can limit questions to the panel, to the whole panel, that would be great. And then there is also the option of upvoting other members of the audience's questions. So if you think a question is particularly good, do upvote it, and we'll sift through them, and we'll take the best questions that we can and put them to our different speakers. And I'm going to introduce you to them all now. So our first speaker we have is Rafael Matteo Alcalá, and he's the chief executive of Acciona, a Spanish company which produces clean infrastructure and energy. So he's taking the renewable energy perspective today. Good morning. So also on the renewable energy side, we have Salvatore Bernabei, and he's the chief executive of Enel Green Power. And sticking also on that side, we have Mads Nipper, who's the chief executive of Orsted, which is Denmark's largest energy company and also the world's largest developer of offshore wind power. Good morning.
Good morning.
André Løkke is the chief executive of Enel Hydrogen, which is a renewable hydrogen company which focuses on production, distribution and storage, so all aspects of the production process. And listening to that, we have MEP Christophe Grudler, who is from the Renew Group in the European Parliament, and he is on the ITRE committee, so Industry, Research and Energy, but he's also particularly interested in energy transition issues and renewable energy integration, and he is the rapporteur for the European Parliament on the own initiative report on energy system integration, and he's also going to be closely involved in the Renewable Energies Directive revision. Do we have Salvatore, because we can't see him? There he is. You are here. I was wondering where you were. There we go.
Yeah,
Good.
Was some suspense just at the end, some surprise here.
Yeah, well, I'm very pleased that you're here, because my first question is actually for you. Can we just put renewable hydrogen in a bit of context, because we haven't done that yet? And there's so much buzz around it. You know, you see everybody getting incredibly excited. And, you know, is it a load of hype? Is it going to save everybody? Is it a silver bullet for decarbonizing Europe's economy? Or is it just a load of hype? Can you actually explain to us, as somebody from the industry, where it fits in?
Yes, thank you very much for this question. That, I mean, we should start from the basics by trying to clarify and to contribute to give to the public who is listening to us a better view of what's really happening. Because as you were saying, there is a lot of hype. So green hydrogen, for sure, is a piece of the puzzle we have to do to decarbonize our economy. I tend to call it a possible opportunity. It's a possibility because today is not real as we would like or as the world economy would need, but it is an opportunity if we will be able to, I mean, achieve some conditions, some minimal conditions. But in any case, it will not be alone the solution of the problem. The renewables will be most part of the solution, but alone they will not solve the problem of decarbonization. So we have not here a silver bullet. We need different forces, different effort, and the contribution that will come from the renewables will be very important, but we should also bet on the energy efficiency. We should also change in part our behaviors. We should also invest in green hydrogen. So different components here will be part of the final recipe. So hydrogen for us could play a role in some particular field of energy consumption where electrification is not viable or is not feasible technically. So I refer in particular to the hard to abate sector, and in particular to some industry we use it already today as a feedstock. So fertilizer production or also in some other industries that use it as a feedstock. Or it could be also a feedstock for new industry like the steel ones who want to decarbonize. They can change their processes. But the message here is very important. When I refer to the change in behaviors, I'm referring to the fact that the industry should change their processes. So when we say that we are shifting to renewables, and some energy companies were used to use coal-fired plants, they are changing their behaviors because they are changing dramatically the mix of production of electricity. And the same should happen in other industry. They should change their processes because I want to be clear about it. Our challenge is not to offset CO2 emissions. Our challenge is to eliminate the CO2 emission. So that's why we are sponsoring green hydrogen, because it's the only possibility that helps you to eliminate the production or the emission of CO2 when you produce hydrogen. But apart from that, I mean, it's the simplest way to produce hydrogen, although today we have challenges that we will solve in the next year because it's not still at a reasonable price. But if we don't start today acting, it will never be at a reasonable price. But look to the fact that green hydrogen could allow a better independency for the different countries. Because look what is happening today. We are still relying heavily on fossil fuel, and the volatility that we are observing in the market could happen also tomorrow if we rely on other sources of production of hydrogen. So we are intentional in obtaining stability in the production of electricity, in the production on hydrogen, so it should be green, but stability could be achieved if we bet on renewables. Other features of a green hydrogen is that from the safety perspective is also the safest way. So it's the simplest one because you have not a very complex chemical process, but it's also the safest one. And it will be the cheapest one in 2030. But we should work on it and to make it really the cheapest one.
Thank you very much. And John André, do you want to come in on that at all to complement what Salvatore said? Perhaps you could add any of the other hard to abate sectors that he mentioned too. Where do you see green hydrogen fitting in, or renewable hydrogen, sorry?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we are big fans of renewable hydrogen, and we think that it's kind of the missing ingredient in many ways. Huh? So we have a slogan that green hydrogen is unlocking the potential of renewables. It's actually unleashing the potential of renewables. So green hydrogen is actually relying on renewables, but renewables is also relying on green hydrogen, because green hydrogen is making renewables relevant in new sectors. For example, in steel industry, in ammonia industry, in methanol, in even cement. And here you can actually replace a molecule with a fossil molecule with a green molecule by using this. So we are actually unlocking and unleashing the potential renewables. And then there are many other aspects. You have the aspects of disconnecting the production from the consumption. So, you know, when you enter an electron into the grid, you have to consume it immediately. And by introducing green hydrogen, you can actually disconnect the timing. You can also remove the place, so you can consume and produce electricity or energy in different locations, and hydrogen can bridge that. And then you have the whole sector coupling aspect also, where suddenly a steel plant producing large quantity of green hydrogen can support a fleet of trucks, or can support another application in a completely different industry. So, you know, I get very enthusiastic about green hydrogen because I think it's just a magical recipe to solve a lot of problems that we have. It's absolutely necessary to do the energy transition. We generate a lot of exciting jobs. We are sector coupling. We are solving all these energy problems. We are unleashing the potential of renewables. So I really like it.
Okay, just very quickly, just one sentence if you would, but do you support Salvatore's view that it should be kept for the sectors that are very difficult to electrify, to do direct electrification for?
I don't think we need to worry about it because it will solve itself. It will find its place. I think green renewable hydrogen will be very competitive very soon, much sooner than people think.
Okay.
And we are now scaling up massively and cutting costs dramatically. So we don't need to worry about that.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you.
If I can jump on it
very quickly,
to clarify that very quickly. I mean, it's not a matter of agreeing or not agreeing. The economics and the technical feasibility would lead you to use the precious green hydrogen where it really makes sense. Because if it will be more expensive to use in a, I don't know, car, for instance, in the car vehicles, people will not buy any car fueled by hydrogen because it will not be profitable for them. So it's just a matter of economics and technical.
So the market will sort it. If we get there, the market will sort it. Okay, brilliant. All right, thank you. So we're going to move on to our lightning speed round, which is where I'm going to ask everybody to give two things or two aspects of the Fit for 55 proposals. One that they think is great and one that they think is missing or needs a bit more work. So I'm going to work around my screen now, and I'm going to start with Rafael, Matteo. So two aspects of the Fit for 55 package. One thing that you think is good, one thing that you think that needs a little bit more work.
Yeah, thank you, Lara. Thank you for the question. The Fit for 55, I think, is an opportunity, an historic opportunity of doing really the transition of the European economy, not just in terms of energy, also in terms of the economy, is with an ambitious vision. But I think that there is two or three very good points. First, some pioneer mechanisms as the carbon border adjustment in the different countries. So it's making a compatibility between climate and competitiveness of our European economy. That is good. The definition of the renewable fuels is good because we need to talk about what's green hydrogen and what is not green hydrogen. So in the past, we were talking about clean coal. We were talking about renewable gas, but coal is not clean, gas are not renewable. So we need to be very clear in terms of the definition. And as there's something to improve, we need to improve the simplicity of the permitting, not just for renewable close to the hydrogen facilities, also for the hydrogen facilities themselves. We need to improve the grid because the co-located between renewables and hydrogen probably is not the optimum mechanism. We need to put the hydrogen, the electrolyzers close to the demand, and we need to put the renewables close to the very good radiation or close to the wind, using the grid and paying as less we can for the grid because we need to make competitive the price of the hydrogen. And probably we need something to certify the green origin of the green hydrogen, as we are doing with the green electricity.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much. Mads, what about you? Anything you'd like to add to what Rafael Matteo said?
Absolutely. No, I would like just to underline that having a very clear and undisputable definition of what is renewable hydrogen and green fuels is vital, because that avoids a lot of confusion. And I hope all the regulatory frameworks will support that subsequently as well, so that we avoid that confusion. And then also the fact that the Fit for 55 dares to be very specific on the 50% use of green fuels for industry and 2.6 for heavy transport. High and tangible ambitions is what drives change, but it doesn't do it alone. And I would actually not point to something that's missing in Fit for 55, but I would say that without a very strong and tangible follow-up in the regulatory framework, all the way from the state aid regulations to what needs to happen more specifically in shaping a market, then Fit for 55 would be useless. But I actually think it does its job, but needs to be followed up by very tangible regulatory framework that will make those ambitions happen.
Thank you very much. John André, quick two things from you.
No, I think the last thing that Mats pointed to, I agree 100%. That's really what we need to get it through from a nice, ambitious document to real actions and concrete being welded and concrete being poured and steel being welded, because that's what it's all about at the end, and you need to actually execute on it. I think the overall 50% renewable target is great. I think the distance between heavy duty fueling opportunities is great. I think that's the key, some of the key elements, and also the fact that you can get quotas if you produce green renewable hydrogen is great. So I think those elements are good, but it needs to be turned into something. It needs to be turned into projects and actions.
Okay, thank you very much. And Salvatore.
Yes, I think that for among the positive, I agree with the other speakers, first of all. Then the positive aspect, it gives a clear direction where to go. So high level, clear direction. But what could be improved? My suggestion is that if it comes to the permitting, so we come then to the reality, to the world, every day, we have problems and difficulties. So we should add some guidance in the 5455 by adding, for instance, an annex to directive, because when it comes to permitting, it doesn't change any provision with respect to the previous directive. So giving, for instance, some KPIs that the different state members should measure, or some kind of monitoring so that the different states should report, and conditioned to the progress on those KPI, some further contribution or help from the European Union could be given to some states members or not. This is something that is missing. So a push to come from the high level view to the concrete application in the every and the day-by-day basis. So permitting especially.
Thank you very much. Okay, so Christophe, you were listening to all of that. The CEOs seem to have a fairly good idea about what they want, which is they want the clear, indisputable definition of renewable hydrogen. They like the high ambition targets, but they want the crunchy follow-up support. And then obviously there's a question of permitting. So would you like to respond to those? And also you can give us a bit more about your views, because you're going to be closely involved in all of these negotiations as they go through the European Parliament.
Thank you very much, Laura. First, I will give my positive on the missing element, maybe, before answer. The positive element of this package is holistic approach, aiming at addressing GHG emissions as a joint effort with all sectors of the EU economy. It's very important because it's a perfect opportunity to put the spotlight on the EU, on its leadership on renewable hydrogen technologies. To finish, to talk about something that maybe needs to improve, I will have to pay special attention to the possible impact on the citizens' power purchase and industry's competitiveness. It is a main issue, and we have to be very careful, of course, about the price we are talking about before. And for all the questions that you have about something which maybe will be missing, don't worry. We are at the beginning of the process. The Fit for 55 package just arrived from the Commission, and we just begin to work in the Parliament about it. For the program as the follow-up of the regulation or different things, well, we are doing our job in the Parliament, and the Council will do it too. And in the next months, we'll have the best proposal with your help, of course. And that's the reason why I'm very happy to hear for you about it. Just a personal point of view about the 50% of hydrogen. There is, for me, something important. I totally believe in renewable hydrogen, of course, but not alone. And I think we have not to forget low carbon hydrogen. And that's the reason why about this 50% in the industry, especially. Well, I will look at it very carefully in the future. Because I think we need both. If we want the massive production of hydrogen very quickly, maybe we can need low carbon hydrogen, not only renewable. Because the problem for the topic in Green Deal ambition is that it's not The problem is not to be renewable. The problem is to be sustainable. And sustainable, it's also the case from low carbon hydrogen.
Thank you. Mads, do you want to pick up on that point? And also I have another question that I'm going to ask you as well, which is about, well, do you want to pick up on that? Pick up on the first point that Christophe was making about low carbon hydrogen, and then also this might be linked into it, which is yes, the Commission is trying to create a massive demand shock for green hydrogen by targeting the end use sectors with very, very steep targets. But is it going to be enough to kickstart the market, do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a great starting point, Laura. I think I mean, high ambitions and some very high targets for what needs to be the share of green fuels is an absolutely necessary signal to kickstart. But that can't stand alone, because the capacity, as Salvatore said, the capacity is not there yet. It needs to be built. And what are the key factors that can drive that? Well, really, essentially, a couple of things. There are many more, but the most important things, let us get kickstarted on supporting, not fully paying for, but supporting the really large-scale projects, because they are also the ones that will actually prove that this is scalable. This is not just small test projects. We can actually make electrolyzer capacity at huge scale. And if we can get those kickstarted, and then at the same time prepare a sort of something that actually helps create a market that bridges for a period of time the cost gap between gray and renewable hydrogen. That needs to happen for a few years. Once we get scale, I'm sure that gap will go away. But like was the case for offshore wind, where there was a period of time where the cost needed to be bridged, now it's fully competitive. But this is something that would need to be bridged. So kickstarting the key projects and then ensuring that there is a demand creating sort of cost gap bridging program. And then to the low carbon hydrogen, I think that's fine that we do that. But the challenge is we only have so much support monies to support with. And that's my warning would be that if we pour too much of that support into something that is fundamentally not sustainable long-term, it's a good bridging technology to have low carbon hydrogen. But if we start to dilute the wholehearted focus on renewable hydrogen, which is based on renewable electrons, then we are at risk of getting stuck in the middle and not making the right determining and definitive moves on renewable hydrogen. So that's the only caution I would give. Otherwise, low carbon hydrogen is of course better than gray. Thank
you very much. John André, very briefly, I know you want to come in. If you can add to that, just to pick up, I know you agreeing with Mads.
Well, I think it's dangerous to dilute the 50% target already now, to be honest. I think it's not good. I mean, the 50% is basically 40 gigawatt. And 40 gigawatt, we are way beyond that. If you accumulate all the ambitions and all the expansions that are ongoing, we are way above that already. In 2024, we are at almost 7 gigawatt, looking at the ambitions in Europe and in the UK. In 2030, we are at 120 gigawatt. And we only need to reach 40 to get to the target of 50%. So don't dilute it already now. I think we need all the momentum we can get to kick the green off going. There is more than enough momentum already with all the large energy companies to push everything else. So we don't need to worry about that. We need to make sure that we push the green. And we just started the fully automated electrolyzer factory down in the south of Norway here. Fully automated. Push the material in at one end, take it out at the other end. 500 megawatt. I don't have orders yet to fill the capacity. Huh? So, we need to get the ball rolling. And we are, by starting that, we are cutting the cost drastically, more than 50% of the technology. So I would encourage to push the green as much as possible, and 50% I think is on the low side. I would actually go even higher on the ambition.
Christophe, do you want to add to that very quickly? Just before we move on, because I know this is quite an important message that the CEOs want to relate to you, but would you like to react? And also to John André's point, the 50% is too low.
Well, we can't agree.
You can change the targets live on air.
In order to be clear about what I want to say, when I talk about, of course, low carbon hydrogen is very expensive. Of course, especially blue hydrogen is very expensive. If we have a lot of investment in this part. But when I talk about low carbon hydrogen, I maybe prefer zero carbon hydrogen. It means with hydrogen coming from nuclear. it needs not a lot of investment. It exists yet in half of the countries of the EU, and it's possible to produce hydrogen. We can say green hydrogen with electricity coming from nuclear power. It's not a problem, and it can be very massive production. And if we have massive production, we will have a good price for it. I can say. Now you know that only gray hydrogen is in a very small price, around €1.50 for 1 kilo, and green hydrogen is around 4 or 5 euro for a kilo. And we have to find the right price for the industry and for the final use for the citizens.
Okay. I mean, the whole thing about nuclear and electricity as well, I think that's an issue that we're not going to go down that today, but I've heard your point. I'm sure the CEOs have things to say on that. I'm going to come to you now, Salvatore. We have a question that's actually come in from Africa Green Co, and Saurabh Rao asks, what are the key factors that will actually achieve cost parity between green and grey hydrogen by 2030? And then it says higher grey H2 costs or a decrease in green hydrogen costs, and how? So, and when he says higher grey hydrogen costs, that's through proper accounting for carbon dioxide, for example. So what do you think the key factors will be? We are going to get into the bringing the costs down more in the second panel, so you don't have to spend too long on this, because we do have another one coming up.
Very quick, because I mean, we have been studying the issue of how to make competitive green hydrogen. And basically, we believe that also with the current levelized cost of electricity that the renewables could give you, if you are able to decrease 80% the cost of electrolyzers respect to the current cost, and if you're able to improve the current around 60% efficiency to 70% efficiency, so plus 10% efficiency in 10 years, you will reach the parity. In the meantime, as you were saying also, the grey could increase its price because of the CO2, because of the price of gas that we are not considering. But in any case, the two basic factors are decrease of cost of electrolyzers. Is it feasible? This is the question. Is it feasible to reduce 80%? We think that is feasible, because if you observe what happened in the renewable industry in the last 20 years, you observe that in the last 10 years, the PV panels reduced more than 10 times their cost. If you go to the batteries, the battery also reduced 9 times their price compared to 10 years ago. So we are strongly convinced that by investing today, by addressing today the economical resources available in experimentation, in innovation, in doing electrolyzer, in manufacturing, trying their integration with the grid, their integration with the renewable plants, we will go along this journey, this learning curve, and in 10 years from now, and we believe also before, we will reach this parity. But these are the two basic factors: decreasing capex and increasing efficiency.
Thank you very much. Rafael, I saw you nodding there as well. You can pick up on that point if you would, but I also want to ask you a question which goes back to this point about renewables and sort of the 40% renewable energy target. You've talked a little bit about the challenge around permitting, and I think it was Giles who said we're not on track to get that amount of renewables electricity, renewables built to deliver the cost-effective renewable electricity that we need by 2030. But what do you think of the target? Do you think it can be a boost to supply?
Yes, I think we need to be ambitious. We are in the green hydrogen situation. We are in a very similar situation we were in the renewables 10 years ago. And we shouldn't repeat the same mistakes that we did with the energy transition in the last decade, because the last decade, the transition has been very slow. Today, the problem that we have in Europe or in Spain or in Italy, in many countries, is that we are depending on products that we are not having. So the transition, someone decided that the energy transition should be based in gas, but we don't have gas. So we need to be in a hurry in order to do the transition fast. Moving fast from fossil to no fossil, no low carbon, no carbon is the solution. It's the same in the transition to the hydrogen economy. We should be faster than we did in the energy transition in order to reach zero carbon economy in in the next decade. Hydrogen is not rocket science. The cost of the technology is available. Cost of electricity is competitive. Cost of electrolyzer will be competitive because the manufacturers are creating big factories in order to be more efficient. And load factor depends of the optimum localization of the renewables and the electrolyzer and how to manage with the logistics. So the solution is there, and we need to be very clear about don't basing the transition in blue because we don't have gas. And now we are suffering a lot because we have in Europe a huge fossil dependency. We are importing 22 billion of a year of fossil products to be burned. So we need to move faster to the autonomous electricity, autonomous hydrogen. Hydrogen is local electricity, local water, and a very simple product that is electrolyzer. And we need to manufacture more and more electrolyzers, as Salvatore said, in order to reduce the cost of the equipments in order to improve the learning curve. So the solution is there. We need to go directly to the final solution without distractions in different colors.
Thank you very much. Mads, we don't yet have a fully fledged hydrogen EU regulatory framework, and there are lots of pieces of legislation, the directives coming up later this year. There's a revision of the state aid rules, the upcoming gas package at the end of the year, which is going to be the complement to Fit for 55. Where do you think the EU authorities should really be targeting their energies right now? Or what would you prioritize if you were them? Or what would you tell Christophe to prioritize?
Yeah, I think it's really important that the state aid package, as an example or guidelines, that they pick up where the Fit for 55 is leaving. Namely, that ensuring that there's a correspondingly clear definition of renewable hydrogen and green fuels. That's a foundation, that is aligned between Fit for 55 and the state aid guidelines. And secondly, that the state aid guidelines also allow for the individual member states to go in and kickstart the major sort of flagship green hydrogen projects. Because if that is not possible, it will be super difficult and slow down because pretty much all member countries, or at least majority of them, already have lots of really exciting projects. We are at Orsted, we have 10 big projects underway in several different member countries. And then most importantly, to ensure that the guidelines also allow for this incentive system to bridge the cost gap in the intermediate period until, as Salvatore talked about, we reach the parity or close to parity that is needed to get to an offtake at scale. So support to allow that we get started, clear definitions like in Fit for 55, and ensuring that the incentive guidelines will be allowed to do across Europe and also in the member states. Okay.
John André, do you want to add to that?
No, I don't have anything particular.
Pretty happy. Great. Okay. Any of the other CEOs, Rafael, Matteo, or Salvatore? Do you want to add anything about focus of the EU authorities, or should we just get Christophe to react? There's plenty more questions coming in from the audience, so I have lots to put to you.
No, I just one short comment. When it comes to tell that the low carbon hydrogen could be used for the transition. So if it comes to blue hydrogen today doesn't work, and it's like it doesn't exist. If we look what happened in the last 10 years in Europe, for instance, more than 1 billion of funds have been given to develop 7 projects, and 6 out of 7 projects have not been built because of technical no feasibility, no social acceptance. So the problem is that when it refers to this low carbon possibility, it doesn't exist, and there are not today projects that are under construction. So saying that it could help in the transition is not saying the truth, unfortunately. And this is an objective fact. Then when it comes to the use of nuclear, I'm quite neutral about it. But I ask the following question. If you are using today the nuclear of existing plants, the nuclear electricity, to feed the grid, okay, just imagine that tomorrow you start producing green hydrogen. So you will miss some electricity to feed the grid. So we'll have to substitute this production with some other production. And as we want to decarbonize, we will have to develop renewables to add this new production. So the problem is the same. Once more, we have to make faster the development of renewables. because it's just a way to go around the problem.
Thank you. Rafael, you're nodding. Does that mean you want to add, or are you just agreeing?
Yeah, no, I fully agree with Salvatore. More renewables is the solution. Additional renewables to feed the additional hydrogen.
Okay, Christophe, do you want to respond to any of these points that you've had so far, particularly starting with Mads' one about the upcoming legislative revisions?
Yeah. But first, in order to be clear, I fully believe in the development of renewable. In a mix, we have the Commission who explained that in 2050, if we have not 13% of nuclear power energy, it's impossible to decarbonize Europe in 2050. That we need a part of it, but it's only a part. And as more as we can develop renewable, as more will be better. And of course, with the network to have the good level playing field, we need to have other energy behind the renewable. But for the regulatory framework, just some word. It is complex. We can say to shape a market while not having all the elements on the table. But already now, today, I think there are key points to focus on. First, we need to evaluate the right amount of hydrogen that we need to decarbonize the targeted sectors, which are hard to abate sector. Today, in the European Union, we use 11 million tons of gray hydrogen. I think it will be very important first to have green hydrogen in our industry. For example, it will be very important. We need a proper balance between the demand and the supply. Second, we need the direct investments towards sustainable projects and activities. The EU needs to redirect money towards sustainable projects. And for example, a strong EU taxonomy is very much required to develop a common language and a clear definition of what is sustainable. It's not finished, the process continue, but the EU taxonomy is very important. Finally, complementing my two first points, we need to support climate-proof and innovative projects in Europe. As Salvatore said before, I'm not sure that blue hydrogen is working very well. Well, we need more studies before putting too much money in one-way road. The EU has already done a big effort in giving the good tools and signals to the industries. For example, we can talk about the Clean Hydrogen Alliance, and this week the first IPCEI list, which is we were waiting for it since a lot of months, and it's finished for this first IPCEI list, especially for clean hydrogen. And I think it's very good. It's very important to have this tool.
Thank you very much. Okay, Mads, we have another question that's come in from the audience, and I'm going to put this one to you first and then open it up to the others if they'd like to come in on this. So Nick Bitsios asks, how can renewable hydrogen producers work with end-use sectors to solve the chicken and egg issue between production and consumption? So what is the specific work that needs to be done between producers and end-use sectors? Mads, can you fix that problem in 30 seconds?
Absolutely. No, it is in its essence, it's actually really simple, because developers and investors in large-scale green hydrogen and green fuel production, what they need is investment certainty for many years. And in order to get that certainty, we need offtake partners who can do that. I mean, just give one quick example. Maersk, the world's largest container ship, but they need approximately 20 million tons of e-methanol or e-ammonia, all based on green hydrogen. And this is something that by engaging with those large-scale off-takers, agreeing on what is a reasonable price and working with regulators to bridge that, That's how it works. That's why we also, as a company, we are engaging with up to 5 sectors with large-scale off-takers, because without those agreements, Jon and André won't have any customers in his store, which we definitely need to be very soon.
Thank you very much. John André, Rafael, Matteo, Salvatore, do you want to come in on that?
I can add it.
Okay, John André first, and then the other two if they want to.
Yeah. So I think Mats is absolutely right. I mean, you are not, as an OEM, as an equipment manufacturer, as a bus or a truck or a car producer, you are not going to engage in developing and marketing these kind of vehicles if you don't have a certain minimum level of infrastructure. It's the same with Maersk. They are not going to, spend a lot of, hundreds of millions of dollars to have a container ship running on this new fuel if they're not able to fuel. They need to be able to have a docking ability to actually pour the fuel. So I think I completely agree with Mats there. It's the same with industry, but there is a slightly different dynamics, because many of these industries, you basically just switch the fossil molecule with the green molecule. Like, keep in mind, my company, we came from this. We already have built huge electrolyzer facilities connected to renewable to make green ammonia. This is our legacy. This is our history. So no one has. We have done this before. The green ammonia became gray because natural gas became so cheap. But now we are reintroducing electrolyzers based on renewables. And here you basically need to nudge the players to take the step, because by taking the step, you automatically get the cost down. You get the scale up and you get the cost down. We don't have to wait for a new magical technology to be developed. It's just take what we have, scale it up, and get the cost down, just as we saw in wind, just as we saw in renewable. That's what we are now doing in hydrogen.
Yeah,
that's great. Yes, please.
Let me add, we need to push both production and consumption, because our customers are demanding green hydrogen for the industry, because the same customers that are buying clean electricity, they are demanding green hydrogen, because their interest is to reduce and to stabilize the cost of the energy that they are consuming. And let me put a very interesting example. We are building now in Spain a green hydrogen facility in Balear Island in Mallorca. It was a demonstration project with some subsidy from the European Union. It's not so big. It's 330 tons per year, multi-uses, to be blended in with natural gas, or to be in fuel cells, or to move the urban transport. And when we started with the factory, we didn't know about what to do with the hydrogen. We were starting the investment, but where are the customers? Today, the customers are demanding green hydrogen, because for them, it's crucial to use to clean their emissions and to stabilize the cost of the energy. And I'm sure that before finishing the plant, we are starting thinking in the second phase to increase the capacity, because the demand is coming along. As the demand for clean electricity is coming, the demand for green hydrogen will come, and that our obligation is to put the hydrogen in their hands.
Thank you.
Yes, Laura, may I add?
Yes, of course. I was about to bring you in.
So I think that coming also to the suggestion about the recent directive. So I think from one end, it should be given more clarity. It should be assigned more specific targets for decarbonization and use of green hydrogen to specific sectors. So this could give a clearer direction about how the demand should evolve, but we should take care to give a medium long-term objective, because otherwise we need a transition. This is what I want to tell. Okay, so clear objective of the demand that will give a direction to the consumers, because also the consumers should invest. In order to use hydrogen, not all the consumers are ready today. They have to invest something to be fed with hydrogen. From the other hand, if I remember when I started working in renewables 20 years ago, I was the project manager of 3 wind turbine plants. So we started with the small plants 20 years ago. And the same today, we have to start with small electrolyzer, small off-taker. Then pragmatically, day after day, we have to work scaling up towards this clear direction that I'm asking to define. So my point is that we have to invest now in experimenting in the technology. and we have to do things, although in a small scale, but with the ambitions to be bigger and bigger day after day. It makes no sense to think today to be at 1,000 megawatt electrolyzers, because it's not viable, it's not feasible, the economy does. But we are observing that 2 years ago, we were speaking about 0.5 megawatt electrolyzers. Then last year, 1 megawatt. This year, we are making plans of 10, 20 megawatt. And at the same time, we are scaling up. And the same for the side of consumers. So give time to this scale up within a transition journey with a clear objective on the demand side that should be clearly defined in the different sectors.
Thank you very much. Okay, we've had another audience question, and I'm going to put this to Rafael Matteo first. Alex Blackburn asks, to what extent has the current power or gas price surge in Europe? Is it to what extent is it changing the game for low carbon and renewable hydrogen? And Rafael,
yes,
Matteo.
Sure. We are in a very difficult situation in Europe because nobody was thinking about our base of the transition could be changed the price so dramatically. So we were very worried because we shouldn't repeat the mistakes that we did with the energy transition. We were basing the energy transition in gas as the base of the transition. We were thinking that, okay, with the transition, but very slow transition. And so today we are in the middle of a trouble because we are basing the transition in gas as the backup, and we don't have gas, and we are not managing the prices of the gas. So we need to be in a hurry in reducing our dependency, not just of electricity based in gas, also from the industry based in gas. Let me say a comment. One of our customers was testing past week in the boilers the use of green hydrogen, blending the green hydrogen with gas in 50%. Very successful test. And for them, they are doing it because for them, without any extraordinary investment in adapting the boilers, the use of green hydrogen is better today than the use of natural gas in a very expensive price and paying the CO2 rights. So let's us to move faster because the customers and the technologies are prepared for that.
Thank you. Do any of the other CEOs want to take that question? Yeah, briefly, if you would, John, André, because I'm just mindful we've got 10 minutes left on this panel.
Okay, I just want to point out one thing related to size. I think Salvatore is correct. We don't need to go to the gigawatt, but we can't mess around with the 10 and the 20. We have to do a few hundred now, and we have to have 10, 20 of those few hundred megawatt projects to really get the ball rolling. Otherwise, we will not be able to achieve what we want to achieve.
Yes, I agree.
I mean, there as well. I think that's vitally important because we don't have all the time in the world. So it's fine to start small, but we need to make that just the first phase where that is very, very quickly followed up with much larger electrolyzers because it's there, and the investment preparedness from developers like us is certainly also there.
And we've already done it. So this is not something magical that is going to happen. We are just doing what we did before, and we're doing it again. So.
Exactly.
Yeah, thank you very much. Christophe, having heard all of that, is there anything that you would like to say? Because obviously this has been quite an in-depth industry conversation, but is there anything that strikes you as particularly important or interesting there?
We need industry, and it's very important to talk about it. Of course, I'm very careful about the price of hydrogen, of clean hydrogen. It's very important. But I'm sure that if there is a massive production, it will be good for the industry, for all the people. I think we have to push for smart grids, for local use, especially for industry, but we have to grow very quickly. If we want to meet the target, it's not possible to be too small, too longer time. That's the reason why I totally believe in a lot of investment in clean hydrogen. You know the numbers of the Commission. We said that in 2050 we will have 500 billion investment in hydrogen in Europe and 1 million new jobs in the hydrogen sector. And I think it's very important. It's a key part of the energy mix that we need for 2050.
Thank you. And actually, I'm going to stick with you as well. I mean, we've kind of talked about this already, but I'm going to put you on the spot now. Do you think that Europe should be supporting all hydrogen types if it is going to be serious about cutting its greenhouse gas emissions and to be the first continent to reach climate neutrality? And if this is the case, do you think this is going to be one of the biggest battles moving forward within the Parliament and even when we get to the Council stage?
Yeah, this is really the goal of the Fit for 55 package. Gather our efforts to cut our GHG emissions. We need to phase out fossil. It's not hidden, and renewables will obviously play a key role in this. This is why we need to ramp up a fully integrated renewable market. But our future energy market needs to be sustainable and not only renewable, as I said before. We should not prevent ourselves from using other sources if they are climate-proof and efficient.
But do you think Europe should be making specific support available to other hydrogen types than renewable? Because there's a difference between accepting others as in the transition mix. But with a limited pot of money, should Europe be supporting non-renewable sources of hydrogen?
I have a point of view than Salvatore, but as I am a policymaker, I want to have more studies before going ahead, especially with blue hydrogen, which is carbon hydrogen. But I think blue hydrogen is more difficult than nuclear hydrogen. Maybe you asked me about
the battles,
the fight in the parliament. If you allow me, I would like to answer to you with a special focus on the revision of the Renewable Directive, RED 2, as I will be representing my political group in the negotiation in the Energy Industry Committee. First, I think we need to make sure that the Renewable Directive stays the directive for renewables. This seems obvious, but it is actually not, especially when there is still some uncertainty on the design of the hydrogen market. It is going to be very complex for us to foster or create a new market mechanism without an actual market. And the temptation is, of course, to speak about maybe low carbon or other things in this directive, but we need to stay on the renewables, and I will be careful about it. My second point maybe can be seen as an example of the first challenge, the mechanism of certification on guarantees of origin. I will not go into details, but we need to be careful that the system of guarantees of origin is as integrated as possible, taking into account the different specificities of each energy carriers, including hydrogen, of course. And finally, to be short, I am thinking of the sectoral targets, which need to suit the sectors. The goal is to create support, not creating additional bias in their decarbonization. And we will look at this very carefully in the European Parliament.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we're actually moving into our closing round stage now. John, André and Rafael, very quick question to you. Based on everything that we've discussed today and some of the stories that we've seen in circulation about green hydrogen, what would you say to those who say that renewable hydrogen is still science fiction and that it won't match up to the hype around it? John, André, can you do this in 15 seconds?
I don't know. I almost can't answer that because it isn't. It is not any hocus pocus. We are. I mean, you can go into our webpage and see a plant tour of a fully automated robotized factory.
I wonder if it's that you see all these stories about how it's going to save us from everything, which is not coming from the industry. I appreciate.
Which is, well, I mean, the fact that we can produce green renewable hydrogen at a very competitive cost, that will happen. This is not a pie in the sky. And then we know that to decarbonize some of these industries like steel, ammonia, methanol, you're not able to do it with direct electrification. You need the molecule, and the only molecule you use is an energy-rich molecule, which is a hydrogen molecule, and you need to produce it in a green way. So I think it's completely logical. For me, it's like, it's like breathing and eating. It's completely logical. That's the way we need to move. And I don't see it as it's a lot of work. It's not any. It doesn't have to be. It's no magical magic that needs to happen, but it's a lot of work. That's
Thank you. And Rafael, Matteo, what about you?
Yeah, it's not a science fiction. So the green hydrogen is existing, and we are customers that they are buying, and we are producing for them, and we are building a factory, and we are going to sell green hydrogen to our customers at the end of this year. So we are today in the same position that we were with renewables 10 years ago. We need to do the things correctly and faster. There is a long way to go. But that we need is flexibility, as we did in renewables 10 years ago. Flexibility about to flexibilize the discussion about the co-location between the renewables and the hydrolyzer. It's not necessary to be together in the same site. Probably each of them can be in the correct site, in the correct position, and also to be more flexible in the discussion about the short time correlation between production and consumption. To do it in daily basis probably is not the best. We should be more generous in the correlation.
Thank you very much. That's great. And we're going to wrap up now because we have 1 minute left. So in the 1 minute that we have left, 15 seconds each from each of the CEOs. You've said it before, but if there's one key practical recommendation that you would like Christophe and other policymakers here to take away from today, one key practical recommendation that will bring us one step closer to creating that durable market for renewable hydrogen in Europe, what would it be? Mads, I'm going to start with you. One recommendation.
Yes, one recommendation is to ensure that we're in a hurry to build a support system that bridges the cost gap until we get the scale that puts grey and green hydrogen on parity.
Perfect. Thank you. Salvatore.
Everything starts from the renewables. So I would ask support to give clear guidance to the state members about how to go in this direction, to incentivize the state members who are performing best and to penalize the ones who are lagging behind.
So urgency on support package, clear guidance on how to around permitting, I guess, on renewable building.
Yes,
thank you. John, André.
Do not dilute the target. They are where they should be, but rather make sure that we can transition it into real projects or introducing the necessary mechanisms.
Don't dilute the targets. Make sure we get there. And final one from, I think, Rafael, Matteo.
Yeah, my recommendation is to support green. Blue is not green.
Okay, thank you. And Christophe, final thought from you before we wrap up.
Well, not all your recommendations. Thank you very much. But I think we agree with a lot, maybe all the point you're talking to me. I just want to say that it's the beginning of the process in the European Parliament for the Fit for 55 package, and we have time to stay in touch, and especially with your organization in order to have different point of views, in order to progress and to have the best text at the end, because it is what we need. We want to decarbonize, we want to help people, we want to help industry, and we have to find the best way to do it together.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you.
We won't at all. Thank you all very much. This was a really great discussion, and I hope the audience enjoyed it as well. Stick with us, audience, because we're going to take a 10-minute break now. And after that, we're going to come back and we're actually going to talk about the investment side. So stay with us for that. And we'll be back just after 10 past the hour, wherever you are watching from. Thank you all to the speakers. Have a good day. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Imagine the world before petroleum and electricity, horses with carriages and candles after dark. No one could foresee the reality that we today take for granted, a world transformed by fossil solutions in just a few centuries. We believe it will be the same with hydrogen, the simplest and most abundant element in the universe. 3/4 of the sun is made from hydrogen, providing us with all the clean energy we need for at least 5 billion more years. Realizing that we have unlimited access to energy from the sun raises an interesting question. How do we manage to make use of it, especially when the energy that hits the Earth has an irregular nature? For storing and shifting large amounts of renewable energy in place and time, hydrogen represents the cleanest and most flexible solution. With cost of renewables falling dramatically, hydrogen is already outcompeting fossil fuels several places in the world. With our technology, we make sure that the energy from the sun is not wasted and ensure stable delivery of clean hydrogen and energy anywhere to anyone. Already in 1927, we initiated our electrolyzer activities in Norway. Since then, we have installed several of the largest hydrogen plants in history, continuously improving our technology. Today, we deliver the most reliable and efficient electrolyzers in the market according to customer requirements or as containerized turnkey solutions. We also deliver the most compact and flexible hydrogen fueling stations in the world, offering customers fast, convenient fueling for the same long range as conventional vehicles. Eventually, all types of vehicles will be fueled by hydrogen. Combining our expertise on renewable hydrogen production and fueling technology, we enable advanced hydrogen solutions. We are helping governments and businesses all over the world to utilize hydrogen as a cleaner and more economical alternative than fossil sources provide. Transitioning from a fossil to a renewable-based economy is an enormous challenge. The good news is that we already have the technology and resources to replace the old. It's just a matter of time. Imagine the world before petroleum and electricity, horses with carriages and candles after dark. No one could foresee the reality that we today take for granted, a world transformed by fossil solutions in just a few centuries. We believe it will be the same with hydrogen, the simplest and most abundant element in the universe. 3/4 of the sun is made from hydrogen, providing us with all the clean energy we need for at least 5 billion more years. Realizing that we have unlimited access to energy from the sun raises an interesting question. How do we manage to make use of it, especially when the energy that hits the Earth has an irregular nature? For storing and shifting large amounts of renewable energy in place and time, hydrogen represents the cleanest and most flexible solution. With cost of renewables falling dramatically, hydrogen is already outcompeting fossil fuels several places in the world. With our technology, we make sure that the energy from the sun is not wasted and ensure stable delivery of clean hydrogen and energy anywhere to anyone. Already in 1927, we initiated our electrolyzer activities in Norway. Since then, we have installed several of the largest hydrogen plants in history, continuously improving our technology. Today, we deliver the most reliable and efficient electrolyzers in the market according to customer requirements or as containerized turnkey solutions. We also deliver the most compact and flexible hydrogen fueling stations in the world, offering customers fast, convenient fueling for the same long range as conventional vehicles. Eventually, all types of vehicles will be fueled by hydrogen. Combining our expertise on renewable hydrogen production and fueling technology, we enable advanced hydrogen solutions. We are helping governments and businesses all over the world to utilize hydrogen as a cleaner and more economical alternative than fossil sources provide. Transitioning from a fossil to a renewable-based economy is an enormous challenge. The good news is that we already have the technology and resources